Hi guys, my name is Mayana. Welcome to Core. Today I'm going to be talking about my least favorite trope, which is pop culture references. Honestly, I almost did my ASMR channel intro because I have an ASMR channel. Go check it out if you like. It's called Mayana's iPad ASMR because I film all of my ASMR on my iPad. So anyways, we're gonna get into this video. It's not scripted. It's really just a random thought I had. This video idea came up because I've been doing like random just hot takes on TikTok and people have been liking it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people love to hear me complain about things. Like, who would have thought, right? I really wanted to do a video about like Abby Jimenez's newest book. So if you don't know what's going on, Abby Jimenez is a romance author and her newest book was like Say You Remembered Me, whatever. And I don't know what it's about. I had no interest in it to begin with because I have read one Abby Jimenez book called Part of Your World and I really liked it. Me not enjoying the books that I've read since then doesn't take away from the enjoyment that I had when I read a Part of Your World, but I just find Abby Jimenez books like very boring. They're very run-of-the-mill. Like they're just not like fun romance books. They're just about two characters who meet and both characters are immediately interested in each other and they just like date, you know? Like, yes, she has good rep in her books. I know in one book she has like good anxiety rep and things like that, and like her books are interesting. I did read the third book in the Part of Your World series, and the thing I liked about that was like the bi-coastal vibes that it had and everything like that. But like, it just like, I just find her romance is just so boring. Like the characters just meet each other and then they're immediately interested in each other, and it's not insta love, I will give her that, but it's just like they're immediately interested in each other and then like that's just it, and it's 400 pages at that. Like, I'm not about to read 400 pages of this. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. Basically what happened was her newest book Say You Remember Me came out and there were so many negative reviews about it. Most people's negative reviews were the fact of like the pop culture reference and how the book constantly references rhysand from ACOTAR. And I don't know if it was, some people said it was like 8 times, some people said it was only twice. Like, some people were saying like the people who said it was 8 times were exaggerating. So it could be an exaggeration, but honestly, in my opinion, I think referencing rhysand from ACOTAR once was just really weird. Romance is already like, it's already fiction, so referencing a fiction book in your fiction book takes me out of the story. Like, this isn't Deadpool. This isn't gonna give me like a fourth wall break moment. Like, it just makes me be like, it just takes me out of the story and it makes me less interested. And also, you alienate your audience because there's a lot of people out here who don't like ACOTAR, myself included, right? So yeah, there are fans out here who do like ACOTAR, but also I've seen that there are fans of ACOTAR who like do not fuck with book because of that. And there's like a bunch of other references. I think there was like a TikTok reference or whatever, and just like this whole conversation had me just thinking about like pop culture references in books and how much I truly despise them, and I feel like we just don't talk about it, you know? Like, I don't know, like, it's just like, I remember, okay, so my very first book with like pop culture references that I like can remember of consciousness was The Hate You Give, and that one was totally fine. It was totally perfect because I have been a reader my entire life, and growing up I didn't have a lot of characters who looked like me. So when The Hate You Give came out, it was honestly, looking back on it, it's really sad because that book is about police brutality, and I really wish that like one of my very first books by a black author was like something more like exciting. I am lucky because everything had came out like right before, like a few years before, so I am lucky. But it just sucks that like that still was like one of the very, like, I literally had only read like 2 books by 2 black authors, like, you know, and the second one was like The Hate You Give. And I'm not saying that story isn't important or whatever, but just looking back on it, it just sucks how much like black people's reading experience is going through like something that we have in life, and like a lot of those books aren't even written for black people. They're written to like educate white people. Now we have so many stories that don't center around black trauma or police brutality or whatever, and we have so many stories of like black characters existing. And I'm not saying that like we don't need to have like black trauma in our stories, because like Jordan Peele is like one of my favorite directors ever. I love him so much, and the reason why I love him is because I feel like he changed the horror genre and like the black trauma thing, and like I loved When No One Was Watching. But one thing I noticed in like black books is that we have a lot of like pop culture references, and in The Hate You Give, I loved it because I love seeing references that like only black people get. I don't believe this was a scene in the book, but like, oh, I walked into my grandma's house, sit on her plastic couch, like, you know, like, or I remember like there was a comment, like I specifically remember there was a comment about like Cedric the Entertainer, The Hate You Give. Like, I just love like all the black references, or the fact that that the title alone is based off of like Tupac and like something he said before. So it's like I love that, and it made me feel so like at home. Or like even one of my favorite books, Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, which is now Simon Love Simon, which I think is so fucking funny because that title is so long, but I think it's so like cunty and like just, I don't know, I love that title. It's one of my very favorite books, and I loved it so much because of the pop culture references. But I fucking knew I could not read another book by that author after that book because of those pop culture references. Because if she had put like 5 more references, I would have closed the fucking book, which is so crazy to me because that's one of my favorite books ever. This video feels like it's so like 2017 because in order to know about our future, we gotta go back to the we gotta go back to the past, right? Anyways, like the pop culture references and Simon versus, like, they were killing me, but like I put up with it. It's one of my favorite stories ever. But there are so many books that I've read since then where like if I read a pop culture reference, I'm like, get me the fuck up out of here. Like, no, I can't do this. Like there's some like even black pop culture references, like I'm sorry, like I know that the author is black, I know that the character is black because I can see it from the cover. Like, you know that your audience that's reading it, I mean, not everyone who reads a book, like black book, is black, but you know your target audience is black. Why do you have to put like so many references? And then it's also like I also hate like Gen Z talk in novels because I feel like it dates the book terribly. Like there's this book by Kaylin Barron. I think it's that book where the girl is like running through the woods. I'll insert a picture here. Damn, I set an editor Mia back because I hate doing that shit. I really do. Somebody's got to do it, right? I was really excited for that book because I thought it was gonna give Fear Street 1978 vibe. Is my favorite slasher of all time, right? I thought it was gonna give those vibes because like set in the camp, they have like this slasher going on. It just sounded so cool. It's a black character. Like I was super excited. Dude, the entire fucking book is just Gen Z talk. Like there's one scene where she says like, oh yeah, like I'm a part of the alphabet mafia or something, you know, just being like queer. But like nobody says that. Like already, like the alphabet mafia thing, like nobody says that anymore. Or well, I can't say nobody, but nobody that I know says that anymore. Like, you know, we moved on from like the alphabet mafia. We've now started calling it like something else as a joke. So it's like that's like a pop culture reference just annoy me so much. And then also I love doing this thing where I pick like a random year and I'll read a bunch of like YA novels like from that year. It is not something that I did on purpose at first, but now I do because it's just something about reading like an older YA book that just brings me back so much like nostalgia and like joy, you know, because it's just like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just I just love it so much. And it's usually like books from like I don't know, whenever, like really early to like 2017 is like my cutoff because like that's when people start to like write about phones in their books more. And like I remember like reading like a Morgan Matson book and just like I thought I was gonna hate it, but I just randomly like read it and I listened to the audiobook at work and it was just like so much fun. It was Since You've Been Gone, and it was about this girl whose best friend like up and moves, and her best friend like leaves her a list of like to-do lists for the summer, and so she does them and she like makes new friends and she's falling in love. And it's just like it was so, and I don't even like list books. I hate list books. Is one of my least favorite tropes. I don't know why. I feel like it's because the author's like telling me as a reader exactly what's gonna happen from like point A to point B, and I don't like that, I guess. But I just remember loving Since You've Been Gone, and like if there was a phone mention, it was like, oh, I picked up my phone to call or text, like, or like it was never like I picked up my phone and scrolled through Twitter. I picked up my phone and got on TikTok. Like I've seen so many TikTok references in the last decade, and honestly, imagine if TikTok had got shut down for real back in January. All those books that mentioned TikTok would have been aged poorly just by then, like, you know. And it's just like, it's just so interesting to me because it's like I feel like authors now in general are only thinking about like the book that they have coming out this year and not like the longevity of the books. I feel like no one that's writing books now are thinking about like the longevity of their books. Like they're just thinking about like how can I get, and I get it, it's probably publishing is probably pushing them to think like that. Like they're probably like pushing, not even pushing them to think really, they're probably like, I get a lot of authors are probably working their ass off, and that's why like when authors write like a bad book, I'm not like, when my favorite author writes like a bad book, I'm not like, oh, this bitch isn't my favorite author anymore. Especially because like I don't really have favorite authors, because I have a rule where you have to write 3 books that aren't in a series and they all have to be 5 stars. And a lot of my favorite authors, even Emily Henry, like I love her. I don't even think I got 5 stars from her, but I read her books every year. But I'm not reading Great BBL, Great Big Beautiful Life. You are not seeing me. I've seen those reviews. You are not seeing me. But guess what? I'm gonna be reading Emily Henry next year. Yeah, of course, because I love her, right? So it's just like, I get it. Like every author, like they're forced to publish a book every year, sometimes every 3 months. Like I remember them Kindle Unlimited authors. I don't know if they still do it because I don't read Kindle Unlimited authors, but I remember them Kindle Unlimited authors would be writing their entire series within like 2 years. Like they would be like releasing 3 books every 3 months, which like I used to love because I didn't have to wait that long. But like now looking back on it, like they're probably overworked as fuck, like if we're being real here. So it's like, I understand it. Like I understand why you wouldn't think of like the longevity of your books, but I think that's also why, like, I just feel like books now just aren't, like, books just aren't as good as they used to be. And it's obviously because of like greed and people being money hungry, but it's just like, I just used to, like, I don't know, I just feel like books used to be good. They used to mean something. People used to talk about stuff. Like, I don't want to read a book and the character be like, yeah, my video on TikTok is going viral. Ugh, I literally read this romance book like 2 months ago, and it's about this girl who was like a fucking doctor, but she was viral on TikTok. What? And it was like a love triangle book. It was it was like Between Friends and Lovers. It was like that book. Like her romance guy, he was like DMing her. He literally ran into her and he was like, oh my gosh, I've DM'd you before. Why would you admit that? Oh my gosh, ew. I mean, they end up having a romance, but like I would have gotten an ick from that personally. But it's just like, that's just so crazy to me. And I am being I am being hypocritical because one of my favorite like indie romance authors is One Week in Paradise, where she literally is an influencer and she ends up going on an influencer trip and she has to have like a fake boyfriend. And like I also really loved This Could Be Us. I love This Could Be Us, and like the topic of her like trying to find herself and like starting social media and like being social media famous. Like, I'm not gonna say that I hate the plot line completely. I don't hate like social media and books completely when they are like a point in the story, like when they are a plot line in the story. But if you just have your character just being a fucking influencer and it has like nothing to do with like the story or the plot line, or it's just for the characters, like I just don't care. Like I'm sorry, like I just think it's so cringe. And I just think that, like, I mean, I've always thought this. I think pop culture references something that's never gonna go away. I get why authors do it, but I just like it ages your book so terribly, and I don't know why you would want to do that to yourself. Like, if I were an author, I would want my books, like, that's why I like classics. And like, I do think that like if some books became classics, like it would be fun, the audience to be like reading this shit in like 3048 and being like, Instagram, what's that? Like, TikTok, like they'll probably fucking be reading that shit like on like a fucking holographic screen, being like, yeah, she opened her Instagram, and you're like, Instagram, but then they'll probably have the fucking technology to like go back into like our brains and like sorry, I read a lot of sci-fi. I read a lot of sci-fi, so I love like technology and like sci-fi novels. It's like my favorite thing ever. Yeah, I'm starting to sound woo like ooh crazy. Anyways, yeah, I just want to like, I don't know, I just feel like I love these videos where I just have like a specific topic, like one specific thing that I talk about, and it doesn't have to be like this big, like well thought out like type of thing where it's literally just like a discussion. I could talk about it and you can let me know your opinions and we can just go back and forth, you know. And I just think it's super fun to state my opinion about things that don't matter also. So there's that. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.